Good afternoon and welcome to the TalkSports, our weekend program, Saturday Sports Special. And it's a pleasure once again being with you, this time from Ground Zero, Brooklyn, New York. Welcome you once again as we, delve into the wide and wonderful world of sports, discussing sports. And we have quite a lot to talk about. And before I bring on my main guest this afternoon to discuss the subject at hand, which is a look deeper into the whole issue of the national policy on sports and physical activity for Grenada. Just to let you know some things that, some very interesting things that's been developing around sports over the past few days, I should say. Well, one, I should say that the Boxing Association of Grenada, Inc., they are having their annual general meeting scheduled for today. It's later on at the Youth Center. It'll be interesting to hear what's transpired during and after that meeting. But the note I have is that the Boxing Association of Grenada, Inc. was having their the annual general meeting this afternoon at the Youth Center. And just a little update on what's happening with some of our sportsmen and sportswomen. First of all, congratulations to Kurt Felix, inducted into the Boise State University Hall of Fame. So Kurt Felix officially inducted into that Hall of Fame. Well, the Hall of Fame class, it was originally scheduled for sometime during the COVID. I remember that they had announced it. That's the class of 2020. They were inducted into the Hall of Fame at a ceremony last evening at Boise State, and they from what we heard that it was postponed twice because of COVID, and Kurt Felix is one of the members, right? Yeah, 2010, 2012. Let me just give you some information. Felix was named the Mountain West Male Athlete of the Year in 2012 after he captured a national title in the decathlon at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships. His 8,062 points in the event set Boise State, Mountain West, and Grenada records. Well, at the time, Felix ended his career with 7 conference championships spanning the WAC and Mountain West, capturing indoor titles in the heptathlon, that's in 2010, 2012, and triple jump 2011, and outdoor titles in the decathlon 2010, 2012, and then also the javelin title in 2012. So kudos to Kurt Felix being inducted into the Boise State University Hall of Fame, class of 2020. So that's one. And he's one of many other Grenadians who have been inducted into the alma maters, whether it was Louisiana State University, or Texas A&M, etc., etc. So Kurt Felix, congratulations. And then we have Jamora Alves. Jamora Alves, yes, she is, from Carriacou, and you recall she was one of the top field event athlete in Jamaica until she was bothered by injury. Well, she is now sporting the proud colors of St. John's University. St. John's University. Yes, that's Jamora up on my screen there. Jamora Alves. And no doubt we want to say congratulations to Jamora, who is now at St. John's University here in New York. And, she will be in the throws. So whether it's the discus or the javelin, Jamora, look out for Jamora. Congratulations to her once again. That's Jamora officially in her outfit. That's St. John's University. And I want to say thanks to Kent Simon, who has been instrumental in getting her to St. John's University, because she finished in Jamaica, and sometimes if you don't have the contacts and things like that, so then was just wasted. But he was able to persevere, and she was able to also persevere as well. And feeling encouraged and inspired, and she made the trek back to Jamaica. She did all the paperwork and then headed off to St. John's University. So we'll be hearing good things from her. And then finally, I want to say congratulations to a couple of female football players. That's Grenadian football players. There are quite a few of them, by the way, who are attending colleges in the United States. And chief among them is Ronisha Frank. Ronisha, I don't know what to say about this. Well, I think my guest may be able to just put in a word or two, because that guest was instrumental in getting exposing some of those female footballers to scouts and things like that. So, and Ronisha is one of those who, wow, she plays for Central Methodist University. And despite you might hear some folks trying to, lay claim and beat their chests about this, that, or the other, we'll hear to the contrary. But Ronisha, overall stats, by the way, in the season, the regular season, because they're now into the conference play. In fact, she should be playing in that game sometime today, and that's his conference play. But she played 16 games. Listen to those stats. 16, 1-6. And out of those 16 games, she actually scored 17 goals. I mean, that is tremendous, And she started in 15 of the 16. Started in 15 of the 16, scored 17 goals, 2 assists, finished overall with 36 points, 75 shots, 75. And she had 5 game-winning goals. Now, this to me is very impressive. And no doubt, Ronisha Frank, as some will say, is an ideal candidate for Sportswoman of the Year for Grenada, okay? Because her tenacity, her perseverance, I mean, it's just there. And by the way, she's all around there. She's not just a footballer. I know in North America, you folks say soccer player, but she's my footballer, right? And that's why I said she's my footballer of the year. So she's one. And then we also have, we knew about Julie McIntosh, Sharonda Charles, and Abigail, and then you, who plays for Otero College in Colorado. And then we also have Trisha Valsin, who is at Butler Community College. Trisha is from St. John's, somewhere, Guelph in St. John, right? And she plays for Butler Community College in Cancer. And then we have three other female footballers at Lewis and Clark Community College in Illinois: Erin Sylvester, Shanian Johnson, and Keldonna Jeffrey. So, lots of Grenadian female football players in U.S. colleges. We just hope that they get the support. They get the support and the encouragement, etc. And that's why I think the idea of the national sports policy is very important in enhancing and ensuring sustainability of these sort of programs for these young sportsmen and sportswomen, because ultimately they will marry their sporting talents with education. Because of course, if they're in their colleges, we expect them to graduate, with a degree, etc., and then move on. So they're getting opportunities. It also demonstrates that for the others, that if you have talent, and I'm certain you may consider yourself better than these others, then there's a possibility. There are possibilities for you. So these are the things we have to look at. Okay, folks, so that's it for now. So let me see if there's anything else I'm missing regarding, if ever, we'll come back and talk about it. But let me welcome my guests. I invited Mr. Chenny Joseph to be on our program today, and Rudian is also there as well, and Rudian will come in. But Mr. Joseph, as you know, is the former president of the Grenada Football Association. He is also an immediate past president, of the Football Association and also the Grenada Olympic Committee. He did not seek re-election for the Olympic Committee's recent general elections. But I asked Mr. Joseph to be on because at our last diaspora consultation, Mr. Joseph made some very important points, and I wanted to get deeper into some of these points, and I recall he came up with the idea of setting short, medium, and long-term goals. But, you know, seeing as that did not air live, I decided to bring Mr. Joseph, who will probably elaborate a little more on those points. And we can, Rudy and I will also go into some of those things that were discussed at that consultation. But nice seeing you once again. Good afternoon, Mr. Joseph.
Hi, good afternoon, Michael. Good afternoon, Rudian, and also to your viewers and listeners. And thanks for having me here. It's been a while since I last showed my face on your program, but it's a pleasure to be here. And I hope that the next few minutes or hours, I'll be able to make some worthy contribution for the appetite of those listening.
All right, but to start off, Jenny, let me get your views on the initiative of, and I say initiative because that has been there quite a while now, but the whole idea of a national sports policy, and not just sports, but as well as it twinned with physical activity. What's your view on that?
Well, first of all, we're years behind with this. I think it is something that was absolutely necessary. I know it was started previously when Mr. Simmons was then the Minister for Sport. I remember attending a few consultations on the topic, and I was very excited about the possibilities. But unfortunately, it may have gone into the cabinets, sorry. And I guess recently with the change in government, they decided to take it again and dust it. I must say I could not attend the parish consultations, but I want to thank you for reminding me and inviting me to the consultation that took place with the persons in the diaspora. And even before I go on to say to you a little bit more about that, I want to recognize the contribution of persons in the diaspora. Too often we have been treating them as JCBs or as foreigners, and the fact now that they are seemingly much more involved in what's happening back home is a good sign for the future. I am just hopeful, though, that their involvement would not just be in forums like yours or in town hall meetings, but in other aspects of development of Grenada, not just in sports and wellness, but throughout the whole transformational process that we are pursuing at this time. I just wanted to share with you, however, my own vision for this sports policy. And if I can just read it out, it's easier for me to read than to try and say it otherwise. My vision from what I've heard and what was being publicized is a new, efficient, and effective direction for the development and transformation of national sports in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique by 2035, using the resources of all communities and their energies as a powerful tool of unity while producing world-class champions in the different sports. And I didn't include a year simply because too often we have great ideas, great policies, great vision, mission, the rest of it, and it's not time-bound. And as a result of that, we lose the objectives in the process. So I hope I am not in any way going beyond my boundaries, but I thought I would share my vision for that sports policy.
Mm-hmm. And why you think, Jenny, that sports policy is very important for countries like Grenada, especially at a time like now? Why you think the importance of a sports policy?
Well, one, I will say to you that we have to also ensure that the resources that is put into sport has some sort of return on investment. And return on investment may not always be monetary. For example, the sports policy seeks to deal with physical wellness, I will refer to it as that, whereby we may have healthier kids going through their youthful age, and to be able to reduce on the cost of health and the medical facilities here in Grenada by being able to get involved in different sporting or physical activities. In addition to that, we are hundreds of years behind in terms of where we need to be with regards to developing sports throughout Grenada. The budgets of previous cycles, if I can refer to it that way, have not been significant to show any sort of meaningful contribution and development of any specific sport. Not taken away from the fact that with those limited budgets, we've been able to excel in many sports. Track and field stands out, in my opinion. We have produced world athletes in the names of Kirani, Arlene Francique, Lyndon Victor, Kurt Felix, that guy, his name kind of gone off.
Anderson Peters.
In cricket, we've done it with the Junior Murrays and the Royal Lewis and the rest of them. We've done it also in other sports such as cycling. To a lesser extent, we've done fairly okay in football as a small nation. But when you look at the limited investment that has gone into sport, and you check the kind of results we've been getting from a place which is merely 133 square miles, one can imagine if there was a greater emphasis on sport and the development of sports in Grenada, the kind of results we may have gotten. I was also reading just recently the achievement of basketball, who has limited resources also. Basketball has over 16 persons they've sent out there to further their education. Some of them have gone on to play professional basketball. I forgot swimming. Swimming, again, consistently has been producing good timing in the Caribbean, and they are doing so swimming in a 25-foot or 25-meter pool, with volunteer coaches, that kind of thing. So I really think the sports policy is a good move. I applaud those involved in ensuring that it is given serious attention. And I see also that the youth and sport is part of the 6 pillars that are being focused on in the next 5 years. So the future looks good, but it's just a case now, not just about how we mix the ingredients, but it's how we produce after we mix the ingredients.
Okay. Rudian?
How you doing, Mr. Joseph? It's good to see you. I wanted to ask this question. I'm going backwards, and I know we're trying to move forward now, but was it that our budget and what we expect to accomplish wasn't on the same page looking over the past few years for Grenada? Because we are saying that we want to develop Olympians, and as an example, but the budget is not there to do it. So shouldn't the budget should be based on what? Shouldn't your plan should be based on your budget?
Right. It's half of one, or you call it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. In order for us to really excel in sport in general first, right, there is at least 5 components that must be considered, right? 1, the academic success of the persons involved in the sport, the economic spin-off from it, the socio-economic benefits also, the whole issue about the health and wellness, as well as national pride and prestige. Now, you have to understand, and forgive me for answering you this way, you have to understand that 99.9% of the time, even if persons have restraint with regards to resources, it does not stop them from pursuing high achievement or goals in life. And so I do not think, personally speaking, that a budget really should influence the pursuit of any association or individual in sport. I use, for example, if we were to, and I hope he doesn't mind, if we were to look at the origins of, let's say, someone like Kirani or Aline Francisque, if they were to consider the financial constraints of their parents with regards to their aspirations, probably we would not have been celebrating these two individuals at this point in time. And so we can multiply that on a national scale, and we can look at it in the context that government may not be able to put in the desired amount, but we must find ways and means to still pursue our dreams as associations, as individuals, to ultimately succeed in whatever sporting discipline we choose to pursue.
Among the areas of concentration through this policy, the sports policy, and I looked at it, it has to do with things like financial management and funding and record keeping, research, etc., etc. You identified at least 3 areas you think, and among the thematic scopes, as you call it, that you think should be priorities, including the marketing, promotion, and communication. You also had anti-doping and gender mediation and conflict resolutions. If you can go into these a little deeper, because during the consultation, we did not get to, go deep into some of those areas. We touched on them, briefly. I know we deal with mental health, for example, and for quite a while. We spoke about it for quite a while. But the whole issue, and I think it was Lincoln Toro Depredine who raised the issue regarding research and database and record keeping, for example. As a matter of fact, I just, at the start of the program, I was providing some information on Renisha Frank. But I'm not certain if Renisha is in Grenada that we'll have that sort of data on Renisha, okay? Yes, she's at a college in the US, and they take these things very seriously in terms of their database and record keeping. So, for example, I can go back to LSU or to Essex and get information about Aline Francisque or Hazel Regis, or go back to Alabama and get information on Kirani from since back then. Do you think I will get that probably at the GBSS where you was at? That's the difference, right? So the whole issue of record keeping and database, and I think Lincoln Depredine, as we'll say, Toro, made the point in the context of there were discussions about a Hall of Fame, for example. How do you create a Hall of Fame without the necessary information? So Kurt Felix, for example, inducted into the Boise State University Hall of Fame, and they had a bio on Kurt Felix. You understand? They had information on Kurt Felix. So you included that as part of your thematic scope, the whole issue of, let me get it correctly, marketing, promotion, and communication. A sort of broad, issue too. But anti-doping is another one, and gender mediation and conflict resolution. But let's go into the whole issue of research, record keeping, and planning, Jenny.
Right. So first, in order for your audience to benefit from this discussion, I will just take us back to, let's say, 30 years ago in sport. And I will ask the question, do we know, and I'm starting with information that Glennis, the former minister, revealed, Do you know that Caribbean netball, for example, started here in Grenada? I didn't know that before she spoke. I will ask you the question, do you know anything about Limbex? Or can you go and obtain information on Limbex, or Halifax, or Atoms, or Dauntless, or Sporting Club? These are just some I'm just referring you to, or even Pierre as a former football team or club, whatever it is.
Or Donald Pierre.
Or Donald Pierre, or Conrad Francis, or Morris Bud Williams, or Jenny Boker, right? And we can go on and on in many sports. Evelyn Blackburn, June Salab, and the list is very long. The unfortunate reality is that those who are alive may recall instance, right? And still for all, the accuracy of the information is not yet established. Because some of us, we recall things and the accuracy of the information we may be provided may not be so, but there's no one to challenge it because some of these people have gone on and there was no documentation of it. So I think the opportunity lends itself now, and I think you and I have been having a conversation about that maybe about 4 years ago. Unfortunately, we didn't do anything about it, whereby those that we know excelled in the various sport, because they are still alive, it might be worth the while doing what I call video interviews of them, and then we can extract the information subsequently. So let us use, for example, and I give you two names that I believe contributed a lot in sport. Victor Ashby. Victor Ashby has been one of those persons who has contributed to the life of sports in Grenada, whether as the principal of GBSS or as the head of the principal associations dealing with Intercall. He's still around. But many of us do not know much about Victor Ashby in that context. There is still around our former Minister for Sport, Patrick Simmons. I'm not calling your name often because I want you to like me, sir. But Patrick Simmons has done exceptionally well in more than one sport for Grenada. Do we have any information on him? I don't think so. And there are others who are still around. Alistair Telesford is in New York, one of the best footballer. In fact, he is the one who influenced me in the sport. There's Barbara Simpson, right? There's Nat Simpson. There's Ashley Ram Folks. There's Boboy Hood, you know, and the list is long. But I'm saying what we can try to do in the interim is, even if it means we were to do an interview with these people and just have it on video so that we can subsequently take time and extract information that we will put on the internet or elsewhere, I think the time is now for us to do it before they go. In addition to that, and I say in addition, one of the easier ways in which we can start with the current group of players is, or athletes, I should say, is encourage them to provide basic stats on themselves. You can do it when you go home. So you played today, you got sub after 20 minutes, you did not score. You can go home and say, I played for 20 minutes against McDonald College, right? And I played on this date. And if you use the internet, now that data remains there for as long as possible. Another option we have is, I think government should encourage, if it is not done now, journalism or aspects of sports record keeping in TAMCC and maybe Form 4 and Form 5, whereby some persons who may never be an athlete may have some kind of likeness for writing, may have a likeness for photography, videography, the rest of it, and we can start keeping data. I don't want to take away from what Toro said recently. He suggested that we can consider doing it in eras. Maybe that's another way. But the unfortunate reality is that we need to do something soon to document it. I will tell you, for example, I don't know beyond my 4th generation who I was related to. I don't know which part of Africa I came from, right? And that's simply because we in this part of the world have not done a great job in recording our history or data on ourselves. And I'm hoping that I'm not just saying something, but at least those who have the ability to make it happen can do so. I also believe, and it's important, that we must find a way to bring back local sport being commentary on radio, and or maybe what you call a summary of the sport on television or video or whatever you call it.
But Chetty, that could be challenging because if we do not have the media managers who are serious about sports and the development of sports, then where do you start? Because if you listen to what you're hearing as sports bulletin, sports news, sports brief, whatever it is, these days, what it is. I mean, no, I'm saying that to the point, Chenny, that it's so atrocious to the point where there are folks who don't really listen at all because they prefer not to listen and get upset than, and you have to get the media managers to understand. I'm supporting your point, yeah, but unless they move to this area where they can appreciate and understand the importance of sports to the psyche of the people in the community who they are serving, then we wouldn't really be moving anywhere. For some of them, sports is all about when someone wins a medal and the announcer made mention of it and blah, 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 and things like that. For them, that is sports coverage. They don't see it as what you're saying in terms of in the communities, the commentary, whether it's cricket or football or netball or these sort of, they don't see it that way.
Right. So if I can throw this idea, forgive me. I always say it, and I hope I'm not sounding like a narcissist in any way. One of my gifts, I believe, is this little cranium of mine gives me a wide range of ideas for consideration. And some of them, I like to use the word, are low-hanging fruits.
And some of them could be destructive too, eh?
Some of them. Yeah, but let's just use some simple examples of how we can start. Sometime about 2 weeks ago, my vehicle that I'm driving had to be cleaned, and somebody cleaned it. And when they dropped it back, it was on a station, and that station was playing soca music. That was 2 weeks ago. I think 101 or something so. Since then, I've never changed that frequency simply because of my appreciation for the fact that that station is playing soca or calypso music right through, for as long as I'm in the vehicle, that's what I'm hearing. I am telling you, for example, I cannot see why government cannot invest a little bit of money in what is required to just simply have a studio, 2 or 3 persons to become broadcasters in the different sport. You can start them off as providing them with just simply stipend or credits. And you simply take that and you present it to Grenadians as a product for those who have an interest in it.
But hold on, Cherry, but you already have the Government Information Service. So, I mean...
Well, I did not even want to say the GIS because I would leave the GIS, and forgive me, I would leave the GIS to do what they are doing now, right? But what I am saying is we can start with small... Mikey Live did not start with $200,000, and he's been followed. Junior George did not start with a lot of resources, and he's well followed, right? So I am saying what the government can do is, whether it is through the ministry's budget or lottery's budget, just simply say, let's start with $30,000 a year. Over 5 years, you would have invested $150,000, and you would have had an increase in sport. Again, the reality is, the reason why sport is not given much attention, or local sport is not given much attention, and you know that as a former radio person, it comes with the books.
Yeah, but Chenny, that is on a national level. But the radio stations themselves, which by and large are privately owned, they also have a national responsibility. In fact, most of them, and I think I went through a license from many years ago, where in obtaining the license, they agreed to certain responsibilities at the national level. Okay.
Sorry for interrupting you, but what's the name of the body that gives license to
NTRC.
All right, so maybe what government can do, just like they have changed in policies, I mean, they've shifted the policies in terms of where the focus will be for the next 5 years. Simply say, as part of our transformation, we are not going to be issuing any such license again, except the commitment is to 60% sport.
Right. Well, just as how they have the quota in terms of music and all these things, they may not have said exactly sports, but in terms of, nation building, whatever it is like that. So sports form part of it, okay? But it has to do also with the national responsibility of some of those, radio stations. As we were discussing earlier in the week, someone made a point in social media is because there are no serious guidance from some of these stations, everybody do what they want. Lucky you found a station that was playing mainly soca, calypso, local, whatever it is like that. But this person was remarking about, it's like they all over the place, guidance, because that radio back then, and I don't want to say back then to make it sound as 20, 30 years ago, but serious radio operations will have not just a manager, but probably a program director, okay? And you have broadcasters, not just announcers. And what we find these days, Jenny, unfortunately, is that if you go to the dance hall or the party and this person is playing music good, you believe that he is a good, quote unquote, announcer / broadcaster. Unfortunately, that is not the case, because we know what entails as a broadcaster, as an announcer, etc., etc. Not because you can spin the music and just say the time is now 10 o'clock or whatever it is, make you that. It goes to the point too of the sports. And I know it's an area that is covered to an extent in the policy, not to that broad sense that you're speaking about. I know we're going into a little details in terms of it, but it also comes under the whole issue of the marketing, the promotion, the communication, and things like that. Okay. But point taken. And let me just get some comments there, because I want to get Rudy on and then get you onto another very important point. Toro was saying, Chenny, your suggestion is valid, but just going around interviewing people we know is too ad hoc for the documentation to work and survive. It has to be systemic and it has to be institutionalized. We have to engage the pre-primary schools in keeping records. The Liquor Pickney running for St. Mary's Junior today could be the Olympic 100-meter champion in 15 years. St. Mary's, Green Street Pre-Primary School, and others have to begin keeping records. Well, as we know, Sean Lambert, for example, he started at a private primary school, and then he went on to, the GBSS, etc., and he had a very good story to tell, because in his entire family, he's the only one that went, I think, to GBSS. All the others, in terms of male, they went to the Presentation Brothers College. But that's the point Tor is making. Rudian, you have something to add there?
Yeah, I'm Chenny, I totally agree, and I understand where you're coming from. But one of the things that I brought up too was something like a YouTube channel, which could cover. But here's the problem with again, like we're talking about, you got to get commentators who knows people, who knows the name of the football players. So when you're calling out the name, if they're broadcasting, they should be able to know who they're talking about. And there are a lot of issues. A lot of people don't know people who they are. They just know number 10 or number 12.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something that is very...
It is something that is important, because getting the names of some of these people out there also put them in a position where people are listening to them, they hear of this name, not a number.
Rudy, and part of the reason for that is the people who are doing it as part-timers.
Well, and Chenny, but not just part-timers, but I'm saying I can go to a football game for the first time and have a team list. And if I'm doing running commentary, within 5 to 10 minutes, Chenny, I am certain I will know who is that person with the ball if he's continuing to get, a striker, for example. Yeah. I mean, come on, if I see, and I look at my paper and I see number 10 is Tom Jones. I can't come back, 15 minutes later and say number 10. I know it's Tom Jones. He will stick in my head. It's Tom Jones. And it goes with the territory. Yes, cricket is something where it's a longer period of time. So you get more, familiar with, who it is, whether in which position. For example, the wicketkeeper is a wicketkeeper, the batsman is a batsman, these sort of things like that. So I think sometimes it has to do with the person who is actually doing it, because most times you have the list in front of you. I don't know of any live commentary where you do not have a team list, but you're right, Rudy, and you keep hearing number 10, you keep hearing number 5, and the listener on radio,
don't know who that is.
Well, not just radio. Sometimes you hear number 10 on television. Let
me just support the point that both of you just make. And it's also affecting our different sporting disciplines at the national level. Yeah. If the Grenadian people are not getting used to our local stars, there will be no motivation to go to the national events. And I use football as an example because, I've been there for a little bit. Well, life is short. I'm still young. I'm far from 60. But the point I'm making is, and I want to refer back to the Paul Roberts and, Toro to a lesser extent, days when Ray Roberts and the others, when they made us stars. They made us into stars that people throughout the country wanted to now know who are these people. For example, giving Honved the name Super Honved or Queen's Park Rangers, the Glamour Boys. Those kinds of things didn't come about by our own decision. It was the commentators who did that. Like I will say to you, and I say it without a doubt, with the exception of our top athletes and to a lesser extent, persons in the area, who live close to these athletes who are representing Grenada in different sports. The majority of Grenada, or the sporting people I'm talking about, don't even know the rest of the athletes. And when I say athletes, I mean all sport. I will ask you the question, can you tell me who are our starting 11 for Grenada's cricket team right now? We will be guessing on the names beyond those people who live close to the fellas who eventually made the team. Not much of us know, right? And so what I am worried about, when you hear 34 million is spent on things that you doubt in, well, then take 1 million and invest it in something that will, and you can't look at the 1 million in the context of a one-time expenditure. If that product that you're going to purchase is going to have a 7-year lifespan or a 10-year lifespan, then you can say to yourself, you did not really spend 1 million, but you spent maybe 100,000 over 100 months, or something of the sort. Now, what I feel is our big problem, and sorry, I might get into trouble saying so, with the exception of, and that's the last time I'll call his name, Patrick Simmons, all right? If you don't come from a sporting background and you are in sport as the minister, it will not have the impact you or the people in the sport anticipate from it.
Why you say that, Jenny?
You see, because persons in the sport know what it is. People think we're crazy. We're passionate about whatever sport we play. And even though we continue to play as amateurs in many sports here in Grenada, we see it as rewarding. And so if you don't have that appetite for the sport, it doesn't really bother you much whether or not you invest heavily in the sport. I asked the question, and I will ask it here, and it's relevant to this sports policy. What do we want to achieve in the next 2 to 3 years for sports in Grenada?
Mm-hmm. That's a good plan.
How do we plan to achieve it? What are the resources required
to get it
or otherwise to achieve it? Now, I said to my good friend, and again, I'm going to refrain from calling names going forward. I said to him, we have to be cautious about how much thing goes into the sports policy, especially in the first 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the unfortunate reality is, let me just tell you, a sports policy is not a manifesto. In a manifesto, you could say, I did not have time to accomplish this, but I will do it my second time around. With a policy now, once it goes into effect, everything in that document stands as required. And so if we put too much things in the sports policy, especially in the first 5 years, given the fact that there are some other external challenges which we have no control over, the same sports policy, which is a great initiative and the intentions are very much noble, could humiliate the very same government who puts the policy in place.
So hold, Chenny. So therefore, are you saying, and I have to reverse what you put in your document? This is now what you call I will consider to be overpromise and underdeliver.
I would prefer you underpromise and you overdeliver.
Yeah, but I'm saying that that is what you prefer. But I'm saying in the context of what you're saying there now, we have to be cautious, because if you're not cautious, therefore you will be going and as you say, overpromise and in turn underdeliver.
And it might affect your results at the poll the next time around. I'll give you a case in point, Mike. If today the policy says that every national person who excel at certain level will get certain things, some will get land, some will get money, some will get house, the rest of it. And today we are performing, let's just use a percentage for convenience. We are performing at, let's say, a 5% success rate. It means the opportunity to succeed is 95% available. And you can run the risk whereby you have 17 associations, all of them surprise you because all of a sudden they started doing miracle. And as a result of that, you now have to find the resources to satisfy your own policy. Or let's just say, if you say you're going to support each associations with national programs or elite programs, and all of a sudden each national association start increasing their participation in international tournaments, you may find yourself in a situation where you don't have the resources, and then it might work out against you. So I'm just basically saying the policy is good, but I think they should be cautious in how the information that's going to be into the first revised policy. You can hold on to all the great ideas, but you don't have to include, that's in my opinion, I may be wrong, you don't have to include all of these great ideas in the policy. You can do version 1, version 2, version 3, or amendment 1, amendment 2, amendment 3, whatever. In other words, treat it as an ongoing document that you will add to as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the challenges you believe that we must be mindful of in going forward with a national sports policy? And by the way, Chenny, I must add to that, I think it was deliberate in terms of leaving out the issue of the
incentives,
because you do not want to say, okay, if this person wins a gold medal, he gets a house or a land, or he gets $10,000, or, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it was deliberate at the time of the first, consultation and policy itself, the note would have said that to be discussed or whatever with probably the associations, etc., or putting up a committee together to deal with that. And it will have to be a case-by-case basis, because someone, for example, winning a gold medal at the Carriacou Games compared to someone winning a gold medal at the Olympics or the World Championship, or a football team winning a major tournament, these sort of things. How do you deal with that? Because with a football team, it's a team effort. Athletics may be an individual effort, except it's a relay, these sort of. So
Mike,
there are a lot of things that you'll have to look at when it comes to
let me give you a quick example of what you're saying, and I hope those listening will understand what I'm saying. After about 2 years in office in football, we decided that it was necessary for us to improve on the welfare of our players and increase opportunities for them. So we increased the prize money for the domestic football. It was at the time 12,000. We moved it to 20,000, I think it was. We then said, let's increase the amount for national players, because at that time, national players either didn't get or they got $20 or $25. And we moved it to 100 EC dollars. Well, guess what? The minute time we started playing international games, the players say, well, it's $100 in any currency. So you now move from paying 100 EC to 100 US if they go out of Grenada. The most recent time I recall, the players renegotiated. You know what the figure went up to? $500 US for Gold Cup and $500 for for regional tournaments. That's match fee only. They then moved on to asking for things like camp fee, right? And transportation and meal allowance and the rest of it. And if they did not get pay for being off from work. And so our budget instantly changed while we were increasing the amount of participation we were having. So we ran into problems. After about 3-4 years, we had to even lend money from CONCACAF. We had to lend money from the lottery, the rest of it. These are the kind of scenarios you don't want happen to the government or the Ministry of Sport, whereby if they put too much into the document and the expectation is increased, the resources to make it happen is not available, and you then find yourself having to backtrack on those. So I will say to you, for example, I think where I believe they could focus initially, or the initial period, some of the things they can work on, for example, is the structure of clubs, right? And the welfare of players, the issue of making sure the parish sports councils are functioning, empowering community groups to make sure they organize.
Are these the low-hanging fruits?
I call them low-hanging fruits, right? The educating of our coaches, and not just coaches, persons in sport, because by the way, the business of sport has so much opportunities you won't believe. I can just use some glaring ones that you can consider. Sport created the opportunity whereby we have a Grenadian is now the technical director in Bahamas. Sport created the opportunity where we had 2 persons in FIFA office in Barbados. It's creating the opportunity whereby we have a referee that's traveling all over the world refereeing games. It has created the opportunity for physiotherapists to travel with national teams all about, including England.
What's about Jason Roberts?
Right, we have that. We have correct. We have a medical doctor who is recognized worldwide in boxing. And that's just a few. Now, one of my concern I have, and I say, I hope we can start the process of exporting our sporting expertise. Notwithstanding those names I say here, they are in the minority. And when I see Trinidadians and Jamaicans are occupying positions of relevance in sport throughout the region, it means that we have not produced enough of those to export.
Mm-hmm. All right. Jenny, let me ask Rudion to make some comment. Well, whatever he needs to add there, and then, because I'm looking at the time, because there are some other issues I want us to discuss. We may have to go. I may have to borrow extra 5 to 10 minutes to get some of these things in, like your recommendations and options and things. Rudian?
Yeah, and Chenny, we had to look at things in two things. Two things I'm going to say. I remember in Franklin Batiste, Miguel Warwood, and I remember those guys. And these are the guys, like you say, growing up, that give us the zeal, because they was on the national team to play football, and that's how we grew up as youngsters to play football. Time have changed. It's not the same as when we were growing up. So we have to take time and look at that. It's not the same. So yes, it's the same football game, but football don't play the same way as how we used to play. That also changed.
That's
There's
correct.
a lot of technical now, that technology now is coaching the sport now, and there's a lot of technology that's in the sport as well. So if we're not moving with the sporting of the world, like I said, if we want athletes to go to be international, then we need to have international rules, and the international rules should be from elementary school all the way up. So that means it's been built into them. This is the rules. This is what require if you make a national team. This is what requires. So we cannot have the local rules, and by the time they get into the international, they don't know what they're doing, because they're doing everything backwards, because that's what they're accustomed to. So that also changed. And another question I'm going to ask, it might be silly, should there be a budget before a policy?
No, because your policy influences your budget.
But you also said that we have to be careful what we put in the budget.
Right.
So that's all I'm asking.
What I said is you have to be careful about the amount of things.
The amount of things, yeah.
Because that will influence the budget.
The budget, yeah.
Yeah. Now, quickly, I just wanted to make reference to 3 quick things before you shift, Michael. I think, for example, like in football, there are lots of other opportunities, such as match coordinator and venue coordinator and security coordinator and media officer, and the rest go on. Now, I was thinking while Rudian was speaking, and government is focusing on 6 strategic pillars to transform Grenada. And we have a successful university right here in Grenada, whom, according to the Minister of Health, is a strategic partner. That strategic partner, because they have invested so much millions of dollars in infrastructure, I think the discussion can take place also, whereby we ask them, can you consider in the next 2 to 3 years expanding on your curriculum to include things like sports management, psychology, culture and the arts, performing arts. In other words, other areas of opportunities for us to create opportunities for our own people involved in those same types of things that the government is now pushing as part of the transformational agenda. I say that in the context that you can even stay right here in Grenada and work, right? Virtually for big companies nowadays, whether it is just simply doing an ad or doing posters for an event, or doing
a lot of administrative work, administrative work,
animation, those kinds of things. So it's that kind of opportunities I'm saying we should be talking, and not just be speaking on a broad sense as to what we hope to achieve. First, we must identify those areas where we can possibly tap into, and then move in that direction. That's my hope.
Okay, so before I get into your to some of your options, and what I'm giving there will be according to Chenny Joseph, right? That's nothing official. But let me get some comments from, a comment from Roger Duncan, who's saying, I'm very unmoved with my recommendation to have a time-bound vision for sports. We cannot have a perpetual vision. Let our strategic plans be guided by a vision for a set time. This in itself will determine the relevance of our sports policy and allow us to make the necessary amendments towards achieving our vision. Set a 2037 vision, the desired state we wish to be at 15 years from now. from now on, right? From now, the absence of this will be a folly. And I think, Chenny, it goes back to the point you're making. I think yours was 2035. But
2035.
Yeah, but
so I have no problem with Roger adding 2 years.
Adding 2 years, yeah, right.
You know?
So, but the idea is a strategic plan, and I think to give you credit, you broke yours down into short, medium, and long term, right? But the available options, and I thought it was interesting, I want to share it with folks, is that you said, and then I'll read it and then you will go and look at it. Encourage clubs in other sports to merge with some of the more established clubs, work directly with national associations and our communities, and I assume that will come in with the parish sports councils and things like that. Find ways to provide incentives for international bodies to invest in our sports. And you talk about also, which is a very topical issue of these days, citizen by investment. Why can't this now be included under the diplomacy program? And you say maybe it's not too late to discuss with Qatar on supporting some of our sporting programs using CBI and the FIFA World Cup due to commence. As you know, Qatar is hosting the FIFA World Cup, which starts later this month. So, Chenny, you wish to give a little comment on those things?
Right. So, if we can start simply with the issue of clubs in Grenada. Every sport probably have some amount of clubs. I don't know the amount, but let's say on an average, a minimum of 15 clubs in almost every sport. There are some basic obligations that all not-for-profit organizations have that they must satisfy here in Grenada, with the FIU included. And I'm almost certain we have challenges there. So what I am thinking is whether it is Queen's Park Rangers merge with another sport, another club in the area that has basketball, or Paradise merge with MXO, Exodus. I'm just using any name, so example. Or like in Guelph, they have the Sparklers basketball, St. John's Sports. Now, you have a few things you could get there. One, economy of scale. Now, it means then that notwithstanding the athletes will be focusing on the specific sport, what it does, it gives the club a bigger base to operate from to choose athletes. It gives them more resources in terms of the persons who will now be part of the administrative arm of the club and even coaching and other areas. And not only that, it gives government an opportunity to really see how those investment is being utilized and the kind of returns you will get. Now, if we were to do a survey on how many sporting clubs, not association, we have in Grenada, I am almost certain, Michael, you might get about 500 and something in this little place here, merging all the different sport. Yeah, so I'm saying maybe now is the time for some consideration. You could start with maybe some of the bigger ones, Big Brother program, or maybe consultation, and they then determine how it's going to work. It also lends to the issue of the use of facilities, right? The other thing I also believe is...
I actually have it on the screen for you, Jenny.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't watching, sorry. Yeah, the other one I am also saying is that national associations must work with these, what I refer to as community groups. And the reason why I say national association and not clubs, if the national associations work with these community groups, they will be helping the clubs in the process. And I think too often, a lot of us as national administrators, we focus more on the international events rather than the structure that should take place for us to excel at the international level. Case in point, we should know where the next Kirani James or Junior Murray or Devon, what's his name? Devon
Smith
is, right? As a national body. and to be able to lend support to that community, that family, whatever it is, to make sure that that talent is harnessed. I mean, I'm not here to speak after my football career, but the reality is, I am saying some of that existed when I was a young fellow.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the reason why. I mean, we've changed a lot of things unnecessary. The other thing I believe we can do right now is to start having conversations with international bodies showing that we have a relationship with the national association. So, for example, football. If we build a partnership with football and we engage FIFA, I am certain we could get additional resources other than what is due to us. I saw, for example, FIFA and the government of India is going to be investing in schools football, I think, and forgive my numbers, I think it's almost $96 million. Just the other day, I was reading UEFA and UNESCO are partnering together, and they have £96 million set aside under the Erasmus program to assist bodies outside of the established clubs. Those kinds of, I call them low-hanging fruits. I am not here to advise my Minister of Sport nor the Ministry of Sport, but the Minister and Ministry of Sport should identify opportunities to travel, to meet with some of these parent bodies, together with the local associations persons. So forgive me, I'll use football, Rudy, and you forgive me if I use football too often. The Minister of Sport and or the TL should find ways and means sometime after World Cup to visit Zurich. And let's talk about how we can work together to help Grenada improve football. Grenada should have had someone other than the president of the GFA in Qatar. While they are excited about what they are doing, this is the time to be talking to them. These are the kind of conversation I am saying should take place. And I'm not going to make mention of some of the things I'm working on, but I'm working on some things behind the scene, even though I'm not involved, to try and assist Grenada's sport to grow to the level that I did not get the opportunity to go. Right? And I'm saying to you, we need to tap into Africa.
But Chenny, you might be challenged in terms of why you think we should believe in Chenny, that Chenny will succeed. When he was, president of the GFA, had the opportunity, had the clout, had the power, the will, I should say the willpower, etc., and you didn't get that done. You didn't do it.
That would be inaccurate to say I didn't get it done. I will say to you.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Relationship. No, I'm just answering you.
Yeah.
Relationship is key to everything you do. Right?
So what you're saying, you established a relationship?
I had to build that relationship with some of the government people. I had to. Right? However, it was the same relationship that we used to get Grenada to host the CONCACAF finals for girls under 17 for the first time. That's the only time in the history of Grenada, right? Football, sorry, that we were able to do that. We were able to also start conversations whereby we were the first to be promised, mind you, first to be promised a technical center in the Caribbean.
And when you say
Grenada.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Right. Now I am saying,
and Grenada, you're talking about Grenada, but under Chenny Joseph leadership.
Correct.
Okay, well, make it clear, Chenny. Make it clear.
Now the issue at hand is, I will be naive because I am not president and I have certain network to say, okay, I'm going to kill the opportunities available to the young boys and girls. I mean, I heard you in your opening remark. I don't boast about it, but a lot of the names that you call are out there. If you speak to them personally or their relatives, they will tell you why they are out there and who initiated that happening, including professional footballers. But we are not here to talk about what Chenny did. We are talking about what Chenny can do and others can do to help develop football and all other sport to the next level in the next 5 to 10 years.
So let's look at the recommendations, Chenny.
Right.
On screen.
Right. So I am saying to you also, I did speak a little bit about the CBI project. Instead of the 290 going to a place where you're not sure it's going to be, that 290 could have gone towards starting the indoor facility, whether it is just EIA and the rest of it. We need a national indoor facility, and it probably does not require more than 200 passports to get a national indoor facility. Yeah, but there are many friendly countries, parent bodies, and even organizations who are there, but we have not been able to tap into it. So one of my recommendations is that the Ministry of Sport or the government should establish what I refer to as a project office or project department. A project department that will focus on opportunities and write up these projects and pursue it until execution.
Do you think, while you're on that, Chenny, do you think we have been taking advantage of the opportunities available? I think it was during the diaspora consultation that Sister Glenys Roberts made mention of, for example. I think it's the Commonwealth and the EU, for example. And there lies one of the major problems, Chenny, the project proposals. We don't have the people with the capacity to write up these proposals and, as you say, to pursue them until the end. I know, for example, climate change, the climate fund, for example, is millions, billions of dollars, I should say. And I think it was Naka Joseph who was making the point that, we can go into some climate resilient project, for example, and using the indoor facility as one of those, but again, is the whole initiative and getting people to do what you think is right.
Yeah, Mike, while I was in Birmingham earlier on this year, I was privileged enough to...
By the way, Birmingham is, for those who listen, Birmingham is in the United Kingdom. That's in England. Yeah. Host of the Commonwealth Games, right?
I was privileged enough to be with the wife of the CEO of the Birmingham Games.
All right, Chenny, no, just to make it clear, you were privileged to be in the company.
In the company
of... Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So in the company of. Yeah. And we started a conversation, and ironically, we were talking, and the very next day, there was heavy weather, which destroyed our swimming pool at Good Hope. And luckily for me, I saw some photos of it, and we had some swimmers performing over there. And I never knew of, for example, the Commonwealth Foundation. That's one area that, again, Grenada could tap into. There's sports and development, an organization that lends loads of money. Gives loads of money. Grants, right? Like I say, there are opportunities beyond what we have even been considering, but I'm hopeful that it's never too late, and we will be able to get that going sometime soon.
All right, Chenny, there is the whole issue of, you made a mention of the some semblance of what we had with Cuba, for example, with the folks going off to study in Cuba, particularly medicine and I think it was engineering. Those were the major issues that the major areas they used to deal with. And then also the rebirth of the OCS Sports Desk. Speak about those two issues.
Right. So I listened sometime early this week. I think it was the town hall meeting in the trade, what do you call it, trade center annex. And a retired doctor made the recommendation to government that those persons who are studying medicine now, they should try to encourage them to stay on further to become specialists before coming back as general practitioners. And I am of a similar opinion that what government should do as part of its investment, I call that medium to long term, identify at least let's say 30 persons in different areas of sports, rehabilitation, physical training, physiotherapy, whatever. And we send, or we try to get them off to the appropriate place to become specialists to come back and serve us in those areas. Jake Rennie and Jerry Alexis, amongst others, there are many others. Even them, because they would have done the first degree, might be people that you might want to consider to send to further their studies to come back and serve in different areas for national sport. I also want to suggest that it is probably about time that Grenada start using its influence it has currently, at least in the OECS. We have the governor and we have the youngest prime minister. I believe the OECS sports desk beyond Reds Pereira has not been as active as it used to be. I'm not sure where it's located now, but this might be something that Grenada might want to take on, but I will add to it sports and culture. And maybe we should arrange for the secretariat to be here and we help lead the process to resuscitate the OECS sports and cultural desk this time. Or you could probably add another one, entrepreneurship. But these are some of the simple things I believe we can achieve, and they do not require millions of dollars to be accomplished.
All right then. Rudian?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you said a whole lot here, and I totally agree. I always been saying that we need to find partners. We need to have the connection out on the international waters. There are people out there who is willing to help, willing to support. We need to have people in the right places at the right time to make those connections on the behalf of Grenada, on the behalf of sports of Grenada. And I agree. You said a lot. In my opinion, a lot of them could be challenging, but we have to try. We have to try. A lot of things that you speak about, I believe that can be done. We have to try. But in terms of support for the athletes and the connection, that's something I think we need to look at very seriously. Making connection, making partners, having that partnership with people out there. There are grants. There are grants out there that we can get to build that will work for our local athletes, our local sport, I may say. There are grants out there that you could want, but you need to have the right people who is working on the behalf of that to get it done. So I agree with you in terms of what you're saying. I can see that to be a challenge to some things, not all, but to the main ones in terms of the connection. We need to build that connection because we need to build our country back, and we have to get it back. And you talk about having the finals in the football game of the women. We need to get them coming to Grenada. We have to be able to rebuild Grenada so that we have college sports, basketball programs. When they're in training, they can come to Grenada for a week. And they can do the same thing for soccer. Just to come around and just come on the beach. They go to other countries to do the exact same thing. It is time for us to build that and put ourselves together. And we have to market ourselves. We have to market the country and market what we do. But that also comes with infrastructure. They have to be up to date. And if they're not up to date, then we're not going to get anyone coming in.
Okay. You're muted, Chenny. You're muted.
He's on mute, yeah.
You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Chenny.
sorry. If I could just make one last point before you continue.
All right, before you make that one last point, Chenny, because I want you to make the last point and wrap up also. But there was a question that was asked: is there a difference between a policy and an action plan? And I assume under your
right. So I will say to the person, the policy is the overarching document which influences what items comes from into an action plan. But I think it was Mr. Duncan who keeps saying, and he's correct, you must have a strategic plan, because within the strategic plan, there are a series of action plans and they are time bound, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, also they are measurable, right? So in answering the person, the action plan is as a result of the policy. Mike, the point I quickly wanted to make, and again, I sometimes may be thinking a little bit out of the box too much. We have currently 2, possibly 3 major hotel facilities that are under construction right now. We have Six Senses Hotel. We have Intercontinental coming with 150. We have Intercontinental Villas. St. David's is not yet developed in the sense. I think this is almost the right time for the government to start looking at how can we have some kind of upgraded facility other than the stadium. You don't have to have these kind of big concrete seats and the rest of it. Maybe, for example, a training ground or 2 for track athletes or for footballers or for tennis. In other words, everything one place whereby we can then partner with, for example, the developers or owners of these 3 big facilities that are going to be constructed to help sell Grenada as a sport destination. But we must prepare those facilities so that when the construction is finished, we are also ready to do so. And it is not beyond 15 minutes of them driving from their hotel to those training facilities.
Or is it like a sporting excellence?
Well, yeah, and you don't have to start with the concrete. You can simply do the surface, meaning have about 3 or 4 lawn tennis courts, 2 or 3 basketball courts, which is not concrete, 2 or 3 little football facilities, a few training tracks around these same football facilities. And just like how the world champion in, what was it, the 100 meter? Was it the 100? Right. His experience, if we were to simply try to get him to say, tell people about your experience prior to winning the 100 meter world championship, that in itself is enough to sell for Grenada as a destination. We have to be mindful of the fact that Jamaica, St. Lucia, now St. Vincent, Barbados, and to a lesser extent, Cayman, and even Antigua, they are going faster than us. And if we start too late, we might be there, but we might not be the most relevant. So we will have to be the best of all in order to capitalize.
Okay. Jenny, your final comments on the whole issue. By the way, if anyone asks me for a copy of Cheney's policy, is it advisable that they can share it with them?
Mike, I do not know when I will go. And I always say simple. I will gain more knowledge tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So I have no issue with sharing it.
So the answer is yes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's shareable. Okay. No problem with that. I'm glad to know that. So wrap up on the policy and then I come to Rudy and for his final comments. Jenny?
I will just simply start like I will end, like I started. I think the policy is spot on. It's a bit late in coming, but I am thankful to the fact that the government, through the Ministry of Sport, led by the Minister and Mr. Simmons, have embraced the policy and are going to be working towards its finalization. I would strongly recommend to them, though, that a final consultation with what I call a limited amount of person, I call it maybe a think tank, might be worthy for consideration. Maybe you have about 6 or 7 persons outside of your ministry to just kind of play around with it. Maybe someone from the Olympic Committee also, or the major sports. And then you decide on what you consider to be the short, medium, or long term. And then you decide on what will go into the document and what will be subsequently included as time goes on. But kudos to all, and Mike, you in particular, you've been doing a great job. I hope Grenadians have consistently recognized that you deserve a national award by now. And I'll probably be the one making the recommendation for you to be considered for such a thing. Rudy, all the best, and thanks to your viewers and listeners. God bless
Jenny,
you.
Chenny always trying to, give a punch. Sometimes one under the belt. Rudian, be careful under the belt. Rudian, your final comments for Chenny.
That was a good punch. Yeah, it was a good one though. But Chenny, most definitely, I appreciate everything that you have said today. Like I said, it's some very good thoughts. I just hoping that those who are in the position can hear it, and take some of it into considerations, or all of it. Um, where I know Grenada is coming from, we should be so far in the Caribbean. We should be maybe the second or the third Caribbean island to be up there in terms of our sport policy and just how sports run and on a whole. And it seems like we are falling backwards, from what we had and the athletes we had in the past, and the sportsmen and women we had in the past. We should have been further than we are today. Um, there is a pathway now to get there and even get better. Um, the policy and everything that they are doing, they are listening to us. Because I've been on some of the programs, they are listening to us, hoping that to take some of our advice and turn it into the policy that can make better for Grenada and better for the sport, and sportsmen and women. So let us see. Like I said, they are on a good path. They are doing good by asking the questions to put their policy together. Let's hope that it turned out better than we expected, and we could see sports in Grenada move further and better. But thank you again for your thoughts and for what you have. I think you've been around, and I believe you'll be around for quite some time. So to see some of the things that you do have in thought will come to pass.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rudy. And Roger is saying 100% support of the sports desk. And good afternoon to you, Edwin Sam. Well, folks, I don't think I will have Chenny on the program for the month again, but he normally participates. But this month we just a few days apart in terms of our birthday. So it comes around. In fact, I recall it was, I think, 2 years ago. I had you on the program the day of your birthday. I think it was the day of your birthday. Yeah, I was up in Buffalo at the time. Yeah, something like that. Chenny, but I wanted to ask you something, but I wanted you to wrap up on the whole issue that we were speaking about today before I asked you about that. And it had to do with a while ago, at the start of the program, I made mention of the female footballers, okay? So I wanted to ask you separately so that we can wrap up at the bottom of the hour. But are you surprised about, I mean, I shouldn't say surprised because you have been instrumental in assisting some of these youngsters, that we have so many of those young female footballers. It seems as if they are overwhelmed now in terms of female footballers in colleges, especially in the United States, probably more than the male footballers. What is happening there, Chenny?
Mike, 2013, Grenada invested in women's football. I recall persons felt we were wasting time. I will never forget. The FIFA people came and asked how much money had spent on football the year before, and it was 5,000 EC dollars. And I almost walked out of that meeting because I disputed the amount. But one of the things I remember saying is football for female will change forever after that. And Mike, you know what is the irony? Every single one of these female who are out there now were either part of the team that we hosted, when we hosted the tournament here, or became part of it as a result of us hosting. And it's for the first time in the history of Grenada football that we have as much as 12 female footballers in the United States studying and playing football. We've never had that before. So it seems like the investment paid off.
And Chenny, and we're speaking about the female footballers who at one point in time, for some people, were humiliated,
Plenty-nail, they were called plenty-nail and the rest of it.
Yeah, and things like that. So, right, these are the same female we're talking about that
Very
just
same.
a year, 2 years ago that, we were saying, hey, what we should be doing is encouraging them. There were folks who, by the way, Chenny, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there are folks who are now on the current executive who are also what I'm trying to get the words to describe them. Listen, I have good memory when it comes to that. They were dehumanizing some of those young female, and I mean, I don't want to say more about that. But
Mike, the one good thing I will say, apart from all the investment we made in women's football, and despite the little challenges we had within the last year or two while I was there, the one good thing I feel good about is the level of opportunities that has been created for women, including coaching, refereeing, the whole works. And you want me to tell you one that is so nice? Even though we got resistance from some persons, I won't call name. Today, the senior women's national football team are to receive the same match fee as the men anytime they go out to represent Grenada. That was one of our final decisions we made. Equal pay, men or women, for football once you are representing your country. I just wanted to leave it like that. I have some time on my hands, so you never know. I don't want to say things and then next thing, it works against me in the future.
Is it something that we can discuss in the future, seeing as you say you have some things at hand? I mean, I don't know.
We can only do so after I speak to my doctors, not my lawyers.
Okay.
My doctors.
All right. Well, one of the persons you want to speak to is Lincoln Toro Deputy, who said a happy early 66th birthday to Mr. Bascom and 69th to Mr. Joseph.
Toro, I will end by saying, notwithstanding, they said it was necessary for change. I am far from 60. That's all I will say. I'm nowhere close to 60 yet.
I'm far. I'm a distance away to Toro. But thank you, folks. It has always been a pleasure, Chenny. Thank you for being part of the program, and I'm certain that the folks will indulge in some of your options and recommendations regarding the national sports policy.
And I will end by saying I look forward to government seriously considering a lottery game for the Olympic Committee, other than what the national lotteries is.
Why the Olympic Committee, Chenny?
Why the Olympic Committee? They are the parent body for all 17 associations, and they often go to government seeking finances. I think it's time for them to be self-sustainable.
Yeah, but the argument might be made to Chenny that the government cannot interfere into the affairs of the Olympic Committee. Why should?
No, I'm saying just make Barbados. All they have to do the case study on what's happening in Barbados. The Olympic committees who run all of these games in Barbados. I'm just saying give them one. So you continue with all the games that are playing. You just get Grenadians who likes to take a chance. I don't gamble.
Wouldn't you say that if the National Sports Council probably be a better entity for such?
Fair enough. But I am talking about an additional game.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much once again, Chenny. Thank you to Edwin and Toro for all the comedy. Toro is always on the show, Edwin. He's always on the show. Don't mind that. He's always. And his time is coming soon, I know. Probably he'll be around to give us a wrap-up for the year 2022 in sports. Thank you once again, Chenny. Thank you to Rudian. Always a pleasure being around. Rudian in Toronto, Chenny in Calice, is it, Chenny? What's the weather like in the south of the island, Chenny?
It's totally opposite to yesterday.
Yesterday, which was rainy yesterday, right?
Yesterday was hectic. Almost an entire day of rain.
Okay. So it's good weather for sports today.
Very good weather.
Outdoor sports in particular.
I should be going down to the stadium to watch games tonight with Wagiti.
Oh, that's the Wagiti football competition continues. Chenny, while we're on that, just while talk, we'll say, the GBSS, you recall the GBSS being humiliated so in football? Was that a Form 1 team or something, sir? I mean,
no, what I recall, I was not on the school team yet. I recall GBSS giving the GTVI 12-0 in Tantine. I never recall GBSS getting more than, I think, 5-0. And that was a long time ago, just the same. But I guess they weren't training. Maybe it's no time for them to rebuild also. Maybe the change is needed there also.
And based on what you see, Jenny, who are the teams likely you can see into the final round?
I would say the traditional teams. It's highly possible that Hard Rock, Paradise, Hurricane,
Queen's Park Rangers?
well, if Hard Rock is in, Queen's Park Rangers is out.
Oh, okay, right.
One of them will be out.
Oh, yeah. But they Hard Rock look as the better of the two, right?
Yeah, by far. And possibly
Camahon?
Well, yeah, Camahon could be in also.
Are they the defending champs? They are.
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm. So these are the teams, but I need to see better football at the park. Mm-hmm. That's unfortunate.
All right. Well, let's hope for the better. And as you say, it's better weather now, and you don't expect the ground to be waterlogged or anything like that, right?
No.
Yeah, I think there's good drainage in the part of the stadium, both the cricket and the football. So that's
good. And the River Road wall is working.
The wall. All right. Toro wants to know about Carnage.
The truth is, Toro, Carnage has to do like Barcelona, right? What Carnage has to do is be the base for the club, but go outside of that area to find players.
So you mean the Wharf doesn't produce that kind of the quality as when Toro and those guys were back then? Toro and Mona and those guys?
The next time you do Google Live, focus on Tantine and see if you see people there.
Okay. Well, not just Tantine, because I know the guys used to play small goal even on the court and things like that. So,
it's not the same. It's not happening. Okay. It's not happening.
Toro, we have to fix that. Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much, Chenny. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Rudy. And once again, thank you very much, guys. All right. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. That's Chenny Joseph and Rudy and Sylvan giving us their bits and pieces as per usual. Okay. So, folks, it's month of November. We start off. And we hope to have, during the month of November and into December, we may miss some of the program because of all that is involved in terms of celebrations, etc., etc. This month also, my birthday, wife's birthday, anniversary, everything 1 week, include Thanksgiving, everything 1 week. Well, Chenny also wants to put himself inside of that week. He's also the same day as my wife's birthday. So lots of celebrations. Okay, it's for the month of November. Right. And then we hit into December. Wow, 2022 gone already, as you can see. And this month also is the start of we haven't had football, international football in the sense of World Cup football being played at this time of the year, but World Cup in Qatar, and it's all because of the heat and all these sort of things. They try to get it down to what is considered to be a little cooler than the July-August period, where it's very, very hot. But the football world, the eyes of football world will be on Qatar for the next few weeks when it comes to the World Cup. I'm certain you already have your team in hindsight, who it is you're supporting. Some will say the United States. Some will say, let me see if it's Toro saying, Canada. I know that. I know that. I just wanted to confirm that. Yeah, Toro will say, go Canada. But Canada had a very good year of football, both the men and women. In the United States, we have England, we have Brazil, the perennials, Brazil and the Germany and all these teams, wow, Portugal and others. It'll be exciting, So, folks, thank you very much for being part of the program. Always a pleasure just chit-chatting on sports. Join me next Saturday, God's willing, for another program. Hopefully, and I'm saying hopefully once again, we should have Intercall 2023. We have either Intercall 2023 or we're talking West Indies cricket. I will let you know which one fits in. But we have quite a bit to talk about in the next few upcoming weekends. And if push comes to shove, we may just have to drop in a weekday program, to get in some of those discussions. But thank you once again for being part of the program. Always a pleasure, and I look forward to you joining me again come next Saturdays. By the way, the time changes. Okay, folks, we have a time change coming up. It's later tonight into early morning. We fall back by 1 hour. So our program come next week will be at 2 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, which will be 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we're just making a little adjustment come next week, God's willing, because we have a time change that's coming up later tonight into tomorrow morning, right? So look out for our program at 2 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, which will be 1 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for joining. Have yourself a pleasant week.